You wake before sunrise. The fire is almost dead. The air inside the shelter is so cold that every breath becomes a cloud of white mist. You reach toward the fading embers, hoping they still hold enough heat to come alive again. Outside, the temperature has fallen close to minus 20 degrees Celsius. Freezing winds roar across a plain covered in snow. There are no roads, no farms, no one is coming to save you. And somewhere beyond the white horizon, something has already begun hunting for breakfast. The terrifying part is that the first thing to kill you may not be a predator. It may be the cold. Step outside in the warm clothing and your body immediately begins losing heat. Every minute costs energy. Every breath carries warmth away. Every mistake pulls you closer to death. Now imagine raising children in that world. Imagine walking hundreds of kilometers across frozen land. Imagine hunting animals 5 times your size with nothing but stone-tipped spears. It sounds almost impossible. Yet around 21,000 years ago, during the coldest part of the last ice age, this was ordinary life for our ancestors. And somehow, they did not merely survive, they learned to master that world. They turned mammoth bones into homes. They carried fire as though it were a living creature. They stuffed dry grass into their boots to keep their feet from freezing. They buried food in frozen ground thousands of years before anyone imagined a refrigerator. And they created survival strategies so effective that traces of them still protect you today. None of those ideas came from modern science. They were built through thousands of years of trial and error when a single mistake could cost a human life. So, how did ancient people survive in a world that seemed impossible to live in? The answer was stranger and far more intelligent than most of us realize. The greatest enemy of the Ice Age was not always hunger, wolves, or even the enormous animals moving across the plains. It was heat loss. Your body constantly works to keep its internal temperature stable. At the same time, the frozen world is trying to steal that warmth. Wind strips heat from your skin. Frozen ground pulls it through your feet. Moisture inside your clothing makes the process even faster. The colder you become, the more energy your body burns trying to stay warm. That makes you hungrier. Hunger makes you weaker. Weakness makes it harder to hunt, travel, and protect yourself from the cold. It was a deadly cycle. Ancient humans could not explain insulation or body temperature, but they could recognize a pattern. The people who kept their warmth came home. The people who did not became warnings remembered by everyone else. That lesson changed the way humans dressed. Most people imagine prehistoric clothing as a loose animal hide thrown over the shoulders. It looks dramatic in a movie, but in real life, it would have been dangerously ineffective. Cold air could slip underneath it, warm air could escape, and melting snow could make the hide wet, heavy, and much colder. The breakthrough was not simply finding thicker fur. It was closing the gaps. More than 40,000 years ago, humans were shaping tiny sewing needles from bone. Some were polished with remarkable care and pierced with eyes small enough to pull sinew or plant fiber through thick hide. Those needles turned animal skins into fitted clothing. Sleeves could close around the wrists. Hoods could seal around the neck. Boots could wrap tightly around the ankles. Every stitch removed another opening where warmth could escape. The clothes worked because they trapped still air close to the skin. Fur, feathers, dry grass, and layers of hide all created tiny pockets of air that slowed the movement of heat into the frozen world outside. Modern winter jackets still rely on the same basic principle. The materials changed, the strategy did not. But even the best clothing had one dangerous weakness: the feet. Every step pressed them against frozen ground. Once they became wet, walking grew painful, hunting slowed down, and eventually travel became impossible. So ancient people filled soft hide boots with dry grass. The grass trapped extra air, absorbed moisture, and could be replaced whenever it became damp. It was simple, cheap, and effective. They had not defeated the cold. They had simply made it much harder for the cold to reach them. Yet clothing could protect only one person at a time. To keep an entire family alive, they needed something far larger. They needed a home that could fight the wind. Across the mammoth steppe, large trees were rare. Wood was valuable for fuel, tools, and repairs. In many places, there was not enough of it to build strong shelters. But the landscape offered another material in enormous quantities: mammoth bones. To us, a mammoth is a prehistoric animal. To an Ice Age family, it could become an entire building supply store. Large leg bones could serve as heavy supports. Curved ribs could help form the frame. Tusks could reinforce the entrance or strengthen the roof. Skulls and jaws could be arranged around the base to add weight and stability. Archaeologists have discovered circular structures made from mammoth bones across parts of modern Ukraine and Eastern Europe. These were not random piles left after a meal. They were carefully arranged dwellings, built in places where people expected to remain for long periods. But the bones were only the skeleton of the house. The real protection came from what covered them. Large hides were stretched across the frame to create walls and a roof. The lower edges were weighed down and sealed with soil, snow, grass, and other available materials. Every opening near the ground mattered, because wind entering through even a small gap could pull warm air out of the shelter. The goal was not to build the largest home. It was to build the smallest space that could hold the family, their bedding, their tools, and a carefully controlled fire. That is what made the shelter work. A fire in the open must fight an entire frozen landscape. A fire inside a sealed shelter only has to warm one small pocket of air. The people inside added heat of their own. Thick hides slowed the wind. Layers of grass and fur helped insulate the ground. The curved structure reduced exposed corners where air could collect and escape. Suddenly, a small fire became enough, not because the flames were stronger, but because the house was smarter. In many ways, the shelter worked like a giant insulated container. It did not create warmth by itself, it kept warmth from disappearing. The fire became the heart of the home. It cooked meat, dried wet clothing, warmed bedding, hardened wooden spear shafts, provided light and frightened predators away. It also preserved glowing embers that could be carried into the next day. A very large fire would have consumed precious fuel, filled the shelter with dangerous smoke, and risked damaging the hide covering. A smaller, carefully tended fire was more useful. It could provide steady heat while smoke escaped through an opening near the top or through the entrance. Inside, families gathered close together. Their bodies added more warmth. Children slept on layers of grass and hide instead of frozen earth. Wet boots were placed near the heat to dry. Food could be cooked slowly, while tools were repaired and stories were passed from one generation to the next. Outside, the wind could still roar across the plain at temperatures far below freezing. Inside, bone, hide, earth, trapped air, human bodies, and one small fire worked together to create a survivable world. That may have been one of the most remarkable achievements of the Ice Age. They did not heat the wilderness. They built a place where the wilderness could not easily enter, but warmth alone could not keep a family alive. Sooner or later, everyone became hungry. Imagine tracking a mammoth for days before finally bringing it down. The animal could provide hundreds of kilograms of meat, enough to feed many people for weeks. It could also spoil before they had time to eat it. Once again, the frozen world became part of the solution. During the coldest months, meat could be buried beneath packed snow, placed in frozen pits, or covered with ice and earth to make it harder for wolves and scavengers to find. When temperatures rose, fire offered another method. Slow smoking removed moisture and helped meat last longer. The purpose was not flavor, it was survival. Yet the most valuable part of the animal was not always the meat. It was the fat. Fat contains more than twice as much energy as protein. In a world where the body constantly burned calories to stay warm, that difference mattered enormously. Hunters broke open large bones to reach the rich marrow inside. They collected fat around the organs. The brain was also valuable because it contained large amounts of fat. Nothing useful could be wasted. Hide became clothing and shelter. Bone became tools and walls. Sinew became thread and cord. Fat became food and sometimes fuel. Meat filled hungry stomachs. A mammoth was not simply prey, it was an entire survival system. Still, no single hunter could build a mammoth bone home, carry enough fuel, protect children, preserve food, repair clothing, and remember every safe route across the frozen landscape. The greatest survival tool was not a needle, a spear, a shelter, or even fire. It was other people. One hunter could return empty-handed. A group could share food. One person could be injured. Others could carry them home. Children needed protection. Fires needed constant attention. Hides had to be scraped. Clothing had to be repaired, meat had to be cut, stored, and guarded. Everyone had a role. The oldest members of the group could be especially valuable, even if they could no longer hunt. They remembered where reindeer crossed rivers, which valleys blocked winter winds, where water could still be found after lakes froze, and what the sky looked like before a storm. That knowledge was too important to disappear. Long before writing, people preserved it through stories. A tale about someone falling through thin ice was also a safety warning. A story about mammoths appearing after the first snow was also a hunting guide. Around the fire, children were not only being entertained, they were learning how to stay alive. Each generation inherited the discoveries and mistakes of the one before it. That meant every winter did not begin from zero. Knowledge accumulated. A small bone needle became better clothing. A pile of mammoth bones became a warm home. A glowing ember became tomorrow's fire. And a story became a survival lesson that could outlive the person who first learned it. 21,000 years later, the fire no longer burns in the center of a mammoth bone shelter. But the ideas remain. Your winter jacket still traps warm air. Your home still blocks the wind and keeps heat inside. Your refrigerator still protects food for the future. And when the weather turns cold, people still gathered together in warmth. The tools changed. The strategy never did. Our ancestors did not survive the Ice Age because they were fearless. They survived because they observed, adapted, remembered, and worked together. The Ice Age did not simply shape human history. It helped shape the kind of humans we became. If you enjoyed this journey into one of the most extraordinary chapters of our past, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and join us for more stories hidden deep in human history.